The visit of India's Minister for External Affairs, Honorable Jaishankar, to Sri Lanka so soon after Operation Sagarbandhu, in fact, was seen by Sri Lanka, the government and the people as a deeply meaningful and timely visit. The visit, as you said, was connected to the pledge of $450 million of assistance. India was the first country to rush in with assistance to Sri Lanka. In 2024, Indians accounted for about 20% of the tourists that visited Sri Lanka. Apart from that, you're also helping us, not just the government, but people whose livelihood depends on tourism.
3 days after Jaishankar visited Colombo, and India has pledged $450 million to aid Sri Lanka following Cyclone Ditwa. How do you see that now?
So the visit of India's Minister for External Affairs, Honorable Jaishankar, to Sri Lanka so soon after Operation Sagarbandhu, in fact, less than a month, just within weeks of Operation Sagarbandhu, was seen by Sri Lanka, the government and the people as a deeply meaningful and timely visit. It gave people the confidence that India stands by them at their time of great need. And it was not just a symbolic visit. The minister carried with him a letter from Prime Minister Modi that demonstrated commitment at the highest political level. And not only that, the visit, as you said, was connected to the pledge of $450 million of assistance for the reconstruction phase. So it was not just a symbolic visit, it was a deeply meaningful and timely visit. And Honorable Jaishankar himself is viewed by the people of Sri Lanka as a friend of Sri Lanka, because this is not the first time that he went during a time of difficulty. People still remember fondly and gratefully his visit during the economic crisis when there were long queues for fuel and food. And now, again, he has visited Sri Lanka at a time when people are facing difficulty. So it was a demonstration of commitment, and the people, government, and he also met leaders of the opposition parties and different political parties as well. So it's a reassurance that the demonstration that India stands with Sri Lanka, that Sri Lankan people know that they're not alone in times of difficulty, that they can count on India.
Right. And ma'am, also, do you also believe that India's support sets an example for regional disaster cooperation? And also, how do we view India's continuity in bilateral relationship?
So actually today, incidentally, marks the 21st anniversary of the December 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami. So way back in 2004, when the tsunami struck, India was the first country to rush in with assistance to Sri Lanka, and that was also while India faced severe difficulty as well during the time of the tsunami. India lost lives as well. And so from 2004 onwards, if we just take that as the benchmark, because it was exactly 21 years ago that happened. So tsunami, and then 2009, there was the end of the armed conflict in Sri Lanka, and India rushed in to help even then when Sri Lanka was faced with this problem of dealing with displaced persons, and then economic instability in 2002. Then before that, there was 2022. Then in 2019, there was the COVID pandemic, when India rushed in vaccines to help us, and then the economic crisis, and now Cyclone Ditwa. So I think Sri Lanka at first hand has experienced how India has consistently, over the last 2 decades, stood by Sri Lanka, even at moments when India itself faced difficulty. So I believe that it's a model for the region, for the entire Indian Ocean region, as well as the larger Indo-Pacific, in fact. India being so close geographically to Sri Lanka, India is best placed to help. And India's help has also been not of just relief and rescue itself. In every instance that I mentioned, India has also seen through Sri Lanka in the next phase of rebuilding, reconstructing, and so on, right? So India also respects the sovereignty of Sri Lanka, meaning India helps based on the needs of Sri Lanka and what the Sri Lankan people want. Mm-hmm. And then it's also across governments, across individual leaders, because we've seen different governments in Sri Lanka, different governments in India, different leaders. But India has built this capacity, and irrespective of which government is in power, India has the capacity to help. Mm-hmm. And India has built that capacity. So it's not also conditional on anything. And so I think it's a very, very good model for all other regions and for the Indo-Pacific region at large.
Of course. Ma'am, tourism is one important factor that plays a very important role when it comes to economic contribution of Sri Lanka, and because of Cyclone Ditwa, we have seen how it has impacted the tourism sector. How does Sri Lanka plans to bounce back when it comes to, motivating more travelers, especially Indians coming to Sri Lanka?
So India is Sri Lanka's largest source market for tourism. In 2024, Indians accounted for about 20% of the tourists that visited Sri Lanka. The message I want to give Indian travelers is that between India and Sri Lanka, for Indian travelers, Sri Lanka is more than just a tourist destination, right? Because we have a shared culture, shared civilizational link. So for Indians visiting Sri Lanka, it's not just visiting any other foreign country, but exploring a part of their shared history, shared heritage, shared culture. And apart from that, you're also helping us, not just the government, but people whose livelihood depends on tourism. You're helping our people who work in the hotels, people whose livelihood depends on, selling various things. Even if you buy a souvenir, you're helping somebody. Right? So I think the message that I want to give is it's also value for money, and you're also exploring a part of your own shared history and culture and heritage. So I want to invite all Indians. I think in 2026, Sri Lanka should be on every Indian's itinerary. And Sri Lankans welcome Indians, and we see Indians as family, in fact. So we welcome Indians to visit Sri Lanka as much as possible.
Hi, Commissioner. Thank you. And just last question. We are wrapping up 2025. How do you view India-Sri Lanka relationship going forward, especially next year? And India is hosting AI Summit next year in February. Will there be any Sri Lankan participation?
There will be participation from Sri Lanka, but at this particular moment, I cannot say who will be participating, but definitely. And India-Sri Lanka relationship is at a level of unprecedented excellence. And going forward, I think the sky is the limit.
Of course. Thank you so much, High Commissioner, for this interview, ma'am, and I wish you a very happy New Year.
Same to you. Thank you very much.